February 19th, 2026. Travis County, Texas. A judge takes her seat, looks across a courtroom at 4 names on a docket, and says 3 words. You are innocent. Those 3 words taken 34 years to arrive. The men who heard them that morning had already lost something no court ruling could return: years, freedom, and in one case, a life. But here is the detail that sharpens everything else into focus. The murders they were accused of had already been solved. Not by a living suspect, not by a confession that held, but by a dead man's DNA scraped from beneath the fingernails of a 13-year-old girl who had the presence of mind, in the final moments of her life, to fight back. This is the story of 4 girls who never came home, 4 men who paid for a crime they did not commit, and 1 killer who crossed 7 states, left a trail of evidence stretching back a decade, and died before anyone connected his name to West Anderson Lane. The night of December 6, Austin, Texas. 1991. The city was growing fast, a college town pushing towards something larger. The neighborhoods along North Anderson Lane were the kind of suburban ordinary that people chose precisely because nothing ever happened there. Strip malls, parking lots, late-night fast food and frozen yogurt. The I can't believe it's yogurt shop at 2949 West Anderson Lane was exactly that kind of place. Bright, casual, staffed by teenagers. On the night of December 6, it closed at 11. Shortly after midnight, an Austin police officer on patrol noticed something. The shop appeared to be on fire from the inside. The Austin Fire Department responded and extinguished the blaze. And then in the rear of the smoke-damaged building, they found them. 4 girls. All teenagers. All bound and gagged. 3 of them were stacked on top of one another in the back storage area. The 4th, Amy Ayers, was found separately. Each had been shot in the head. The shop had been deliberately set alight. Lighter fluid. Paper products used as fuel. Whoever had done this wanted the evidence to burn. What they could not account for was the automatic sprinkler system and the fact that one 13-year-old girl had reached out and grabbed her attacker. The fire destroyed a great deal. It did not destroy everything. Autopsies would later confirm that at least 2 of the girls had been sexually violated. 2 different firearms were used, a .22 caliber pistol and a .380 handgun. Amy Ayers, the youngest, was shot twice. The register was empty, $540 gone. Investigators' first working theory, a robbery. But this scene did not look like a robbery. It looked like something else entirely. Something organized and cold and deliberate. The 4 girls. Before the investigation, before the confessions, before the DNA, there were 4 girls. And they deserved to be introduced properly. Jennifer Harbison was 17. She worked at the yogurt shop and was weeks away from the kind of future that seems inevitable at that age: graduation. Next steps. The long road ahead. She attended Lanier High School. She was a member of the Future Farmers of America. Her sister Sarah was 15. She had stopped by the shop that evening not to work, just to catch a ride to a slumber party. Eliza Thomas was also 17, also a Lanier student, also an AFA member. She had a younger sister, Sonora. In the months following Eliza's death, Sonora brought Eliza's prize hog to the Travis County Livestock Show. She won. Amy Ayers was 13 years old. She was with Sarah, 2 younger sisters, tagging along while the older girls closed up. Amy was the youngest in the building that night. She was also the one who fought back. Nearly 1,000 people gathered outside St. Louis Catholic Church for the funeral. At their high school commencement, their classmates placed caps and gowns in empty seats, alongside flowers. They were future farmers of America. They had plans. Amy Ayers' decision to fight back in her final moments would, 34 years later, answer every question that a decade of investigations could not. The wrong men. For 8 years, the case sat cold. Police had processed over 1,200 suspects. They had received dozens of confessions, none of them credible. The crime scene had been compromised by fire and water. There was no surveillance footage, no clear physical trail. What investigators had, more than anything, was pressure. This was Austin's most notorious unsolved case. The victims' families were still waiting. The public had not forgotten. A billboard featuring the four girls' faces stood alongside Interstate 35, visible from the highway every single day. In 1999, the Austin Yogurt Shop Task Force reopened the investigation and focused on four young men who had been loosely connected to the case in 1991. Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, Maurice Pierce, Forrest Wellborn. All four had been teenagers at the time of the murders. All four lived in the area. All four were brought in for questioning. What happened in those interrogation rooms would define the next 2.5 decades of their lives. But before we get there, and we will there, is something you need to know about the physical evidence. In the year 2000, a Texas Department of Public Safety report confirmed something that should have stopped the prosecutions entirely. None of the four men's DNA was found at the crime scene, not a trace. And yet, by 2002, two of them had been convicted. One had been sentenced to death. We are going to walk through exactly how two young men ended up convicted of a crime the DNA already said they did not commit. And we are going to show you who actually did it. But first, a brief pause. This channel exists because of people who are genuinely curious about the mechanics of how justice works, and sometimes does not. If you are one of those people, and if this kind of careful, evidence-first storytelling is something you want more of, consider subscribing. It costs you nothing, and it directly determines whether we can keep making work like this. There is also a bell icon. If you use it, you will be the first to know when the next case drops. We do not publish often. We publish carefully. That is the deal. Now, back to Austin. 1999. The confessions. In September 1999, Michael Scott sat in an interrogation room for more than 18 hours.
He was 20. You know what the truth is. You're having trouble with the memories or flashbacks. You know what happened. You're scared to tell us. I don't blame you. It's a horrible thing what you saw in there.
Look, can I tell y'all what I keep seeing in my head?
Tell us what you see in your head.
I keep seeing these girls get shot.
Right. Tell us what that looks like. Tell us what you see specifically. How they're getting shot and who's shooting them. Come on, Michael, you're doing good. Tell us. Let's do this today. Let's do it.
Seeing girls, I remember seeing them down. I remember one girl screaming, terrified.
Okay.
I don't know if this is real or not, or if this is...
Michael, it's real. It's okay. You can present it to us any way you want, but it's real. Mike, look at me. You're remembering what happened because you were inside there, right? You're remembering what happened.
I don't honestly remember going in the building.
But you were in the building. You went in there with them. I don't believe that, Michael. You do remember going in there. And you know you were in there. Did you shoot any of those girls?
No, sir.
Then tell us what happened. What did those two boys do to those girls? You want to live with this the rest of your life?
No, I don't.
Then get it out right now. They're you over. Them. They're the ones that shot the girls. Do it. What did you see happen?
At some point, Maurice hands you that revolver. What does he say to you?
Either shoot him or you're next.
That's what he said.
Because I didn't want to do it.
Right. Either shoot him or you're next. What do you remember hearing then?
I remember looking at this girl. I cry. I hear Robert saying, "Do it, do it." I hear the gun go off. I only pulled the trigger once. I turn around. Here's your stupid gun.
What happens next, Mike? That brought back some memories, didn't it?
I remember looking at the gun.
You ever seen that gun before?
I'm not positive.
Does that look like a gun you've seen before?
It looks like a gun I've seen before, but I'm not positive.
Is that the gun you shot somebody with, Mike?
I don't.
Is that the gun you walked up behind somebody with and shot in the head? Is that the one? Talk to me, Mike.
Yes,
You did that, didn't you?
yes, sir.
We've just opened some more doors, haven't we, Mike?
Not really.
18 hours.
You sure?
He was 25 years old. He had no legal representation during the questioning. And according to his defense attorneys, investigators did not simply ask questions, they fed him answers. Details about the crime scene that he then repeated back, under pressure, under exhaustion, in a room he could not leave. He signed a confession. Robert Springsteen's interrogation was 5 hours long and was videotaped.
The problem is,
Then what
we gotta get to
what
the
are
truth.
our options?
Our
I
options
cannot
are,
give you any more truth than I've already given. Where do we go from here?
why can't you? Because
Because I don't
you're gonna
remember.
dig yourself into that thing? Well, you're already there. You've already dug the hole. The hole's there.
Oh, then I'm in it. I don't know. That's what I keep telling you guys. I mean, my God, this was 7 years ago.
But this is one of the most significant things that ever happened in your
That's
life.
what I keep trying to explain to you. If I was there and I partook in this, I would remember these things.
And you do remember these things.
No, I don't. No, I do not.
You're the coldest guy I've ever talked to in my life. Are you a cold-blooded murderer?
No, sir, I'm not.
I think you are. I think Maurice is absolutely true about you.
Well, then
You're the coldest guy I've ever talked
we need
to.
to take.
Pardon me?
Then let's take whatever actions we need to take. If that's what you believe and that's where you think this case needs to go, then let's go there.
We don't want to go there.
But I'm doing everything I can and have exceeded my limits of helping you guys. Where do we go now?
What did Maurice make you do with that 380? Huh? What did he tell you to do? If that's right, or what's going to happen? Oh, what did you do? What did you do? Which one? Okay, where? Where did he make you shoot? Wow. Where? She already down? She already show up? What happened? What else? What else did you do? Yeah, you did. You did? You're there. Absolutely. You are there. What else did you do? You wasn't there, did you?
And was videotaped. That footage still exists. In it, you can watch a young man insist repeatedly that he was not there. You can watch the moment that changes. His shoulders drop. His head goes down, and then he says what they needed him to say. Springsteen confessed to violating Amy Ayers. It was Amy Ayers' DNA, evidence the sample from beneath her fingernails that would later prove he was never near her. Maurice Pierce had actually been interrogated much earlier, within a week of the murders in 1991, as a 16-year-old. He had been arrested at a nearby mall for carrying a firearm of the same make and model as one of the murder weapons. After hours of questioning, he also confessed. His confession did not match the crime scene details. Ballistics on his weapon were inconclusive. He was released. Forrest Wellborn was 15 years old at the time of the murders. He was brought in as a suspect in 1999 but never confessed. 2 separate grand juries declined to indict him. The case against him was dismissed. By 2003, charges against both Pierce and Wellborn had been dropped. But Scott and Springsteen had already been convicted in open court using confessions both men insisted were taken by force. In 2006, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned Springsteen's conviction. In 2007, Scott's conviction was overturned on nearly identical grounds. Both rulings centered on the same legal issue. The confessions had been improperly used without allowing cross-examination. In 2009, all charges against both men were formally dismissed. after new DNA testing that excluded them entirely. The DNA that waited. The case sat dormant again through the 2000s. Maurice Pierce, who had spent 3 years in jail for the yogurt shop murders before charges were dropped, was killed by Austin police in 2010 during a traffic stop. He had attacked an officer and fled. His attorney would later say that the trauma of his earlier arrest and imprisonment likely contributed to the state he was in that night. He was exonerated.
A former yogurt shop murder suspect shot dead after stabbing a police officer this morning. That officer recovering from a knife wound to his neck. New at noon, we are discovering the man killed was Maurice Pierce. He was one of the original suspects in Austin's notorious 1991 yogurt shop murders, but he was never convicted. Police say that Officer Frank Wilson, a 5.5-year veteran of the force, shot Maurice Pierce dead during a struggle in North Austin after a traffic stop in the 1200-900 block of Henneman Drive around 11 o'clock last night. And KXAN's Josh Hinkle has been following the story ever since then. Josh, did you see that press conference?
Yes, I did, and we have a little bit more details for you right now. Police say Pierce ran through a stop sign. He got out of his car. He started jumping over fences to get away through this neighborhood. And when Wilson finally caught up with him, he grabbed the knife from the officer's belt, stabbed him in the neck right here in the street.
Walked outside. There were 7, 8 police cars within maybe a 40-foot radius. They had 2 streets taped off, completely marked as a crime scene. They weren't letting anybody in there.
Police say Officer Frank Wilson and a rookie officer tried to pull Pierce's vehicle over when they saw him run a stop sign. He then jumped out and fled into the neighborhood.
Didn't think it would happen here. It's a bit of a shock.
Officer Wilson eventually caught up with him a few blocks down. They struggled before Pierce grabbed Wilson's knife from his belt and stabbed him in the neck.
The officer managed to fire a single round that did strike the suspect. The suspect then fled. The officer fell to the ground.
Minutes later, neighbors called police saying the attacker was dead in a yard down the street.
It's usually pretty safe here, and I trust the police to protect us out here. So
we appreciate thoughts and prayers for Officer Wilson as well as his family.
And we're back live here at the scene where the investigation has finally wrapped up. We did hear in that press conference that Officer Wilson is in stable condition at St. David's in Round Rock. He is expected to remain there through the Christmas time, but he did have a successful surgery, and we will keep you updated on his condition and the rest of this story throughout the day. Live in Northwest Austin, Josh Hinkle, KXAN Austin News.
Okay, Josh, thank you. Maurice Pierce is a name many Austinites know well, connected to that infamous yogurt shop murders. KXAN, we've been following this investigation since the very beginning back in 1991 when 4 teenage girls were found bound, gagged, and shot execution style inside the I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop, which was once on Anderson Lane in North Austin. After years of work, police did not make an arrest in the case until 1999. Maurice, one of the 4 men charged, but in 2003, charges were dropped against Maurice Pierce due to lack of evidence. Eventually, charges were dropped against all of the suspects. But in 2008, Pierce was arrested again on an unrelated charge right here in Austin of resisting arrest and assault on a police officer. And that brings us to today, where police just told us the yogurt shop murder case is still an active investigation.
He was exonerated posthumously in 2026. His widow and daughter were in the courtroom. In 2017, a significant development occurred, one that was not made public for years. Advanced forensic testing on biological evidence from the crime scene identified a single unidentified male DNA profile. It matched none of the 4 accused men. It matched none of the 1,200 suspects who had been processed over the years. But it did match something in national forensic databases. There was a name. That name was not immediately shared with Austin investigators. It would be 8 more years before the full picture came together. In August 2025, HBO released a 4-part documentary series on the case, directing national attention back to West Anderson Lane for the first time in years. 1 month later, in September 2025, the Austin Police Department held a press conference. Cold case detective Daniel Jackson stood at a podium and stated calmly, clinically, that DNA evidence and ballistics had identified the man responsible for the yogurt shop murders. His name was Robert Eugene Brashers. He had been dead for 26 years. The real perpetrator. Robert Eugene Brashers was not unknown to law enforcement. He had a record that stretched across a decade in multiple states. The profile of his crimes was consistent. He worked alone, he used firearms, he violated victims before taking their lives, and he set fires to destroy evidence. Florida, 1985. Georgia, 1992. Arrested for possession of stolen firearms in a stolen vehicle. Released in February 1997. Tennessee, 1997. DNA linked to an attack on a 14-year-old girl in Memphis. Missouri, 1998. Linked to the double murder of a woman and her 12-year-old daughter. The pattern was not subtle. The geography was wide. And in 1999, law enforcement finally had him cornered at a motel in Kennett, Missouri, following a report of a vehicle with stolen plates. A 4-hour standoff followed. Before it ended, Brashers allowed his wife and 3 children to leave the room. Then, he took his own life. The guns went with him.
It's a major breakthrough in the so-called yogurt shop murders.
I'm sorry that it took 30, 40 years for us to get here, but we're here now.
The victims were Jennifer Harbison and her sister Sarah and their friends Amy Ayers and Eliza Thomas. The teenagers were found slain in an I Can't Believe It's Yogurt store in Austin, Texas in 1991. The girls were found gagged, their hands tied, each shot in the head. Then the store was set ablaze. The slayings are the subject of the new HBO docuseries, The Yogurt Shop Murders. Now cops say Robert Eugene Brashers is behind the terrible crime, established by new DNA technology.
The only physical evidence located at that scene has been matched to him.
Brashers shot himself to death during a shootout with cops in 1999. We spoke to 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, who is covering the case.
Investigators really believe they've got the right guy. This is a guy who is a serial killer and a serial rapist, as well as a pedophile. He's a very bad guy. Today, the lead detective said he believes that we will find other cases where he was involved.
The still grieving families of the slain yogurt shop teenagers also spoke at a news conference in Austin today.
I know now what happened, and that does ease my suffering. I really just came to say thank you for the Austin Police Department and all the love and support that you have given us over these 34 years.
The suspect's daughter is also speaking out today.
I'm very sorry for the pain and everything that my father has put everyone through.
His DNA, already present in evidence from crimes committed in multiple states, was in the system. But forensic technology in 1999 was not what it would become. And Austin's most critical piece of evidence, the DNA from beneath Amy Ayers' fingernails, had not yet been processed against his profile. Detective Jackson described Brashers as, in his words, a transient and calculating offender who operated across multiple states and evaded law enforcement for years. He also said this about Amy Ayers. Amy's final moments on this earth were to solve this case for us. It's because of her fighting back. Brashers' own daughter, Deborah, found out about the yogurt shop murders the same night the public did. She told reporters, "My first thought was I was born in August 1991. Where was he at then?" She also said, "I am very sorry to every family that my father hurt. Someone has to say it, because he was not sorry for it." In 2026, investigators posthumously linked Brashers to an additional murder, a 43-year-old woman killed in Lexington, Kentucky in 1998. That brought the confirmed total to 8 homicides. 8. The families. There are people in this story who never got to be part of the resolution. The Harbison family lost 2 daughters, Jennifer and Sarah, on the same night. Barbara Wilson, their mother, was at the September 2025 press conference when Brashers was officially named. She said, "I'm full of gratitude. It has been so long." Eliza Thomas's sister, Sonora, who had shown Eliza's prize hog at the county livestock show in the months after her sister's death, spoke with equal directness. "I now know what happened, and that does ease my suffering. Our reality hasn't changed. We have been robbed of a life of nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and of sisters to grow old with. Amy Ayers' brother Sean was also at the press conference. At one point I had given up on God, but he never gave up on me. These families waited.
If there was ever anyone who was nearly born in the saddle, it was Amy Ayers. Raised on ranches in Cleburne and Jacksboro, Amy was a little self-conscious about being a cowgirl when her family moved to Austin in 1985.
Used to kind of bother her because she was always a country girl, and I told her, I said, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl.
What does this room reflect of her?
Well, I think it shows you some of her interests. George Strait, he's on every wall here in the room. She was an animal lover. She really loved cats, and horses were probably her favorite of the animals. We've got stuffed animals of all kinds to go with that. She spent a lot of time in here just by herself, played her stereo with all of her country western music. She's always liked country western. Has never been a rock and roll fan. And would spend do her homework in here, sitting at her desk with her country music going.
Amy's birthday 2 years ago. At 12, she was already showing signs of camera shyness. That was the year she got her cutting horse, Copy.
Here comes Amy Ayers from Lanier. Amy Ayers, all right,
Her love of animals took her to the FFA. She raised and sold pigs at the Austin-Travis County Livestock Show. And it was through the FFA that she became friends with Jennifer and Sarah Harbison.
They just hit it off from the first time they met, and then once that happened, you didn't see one without the other at the livestock show. You didn't have to worry about those two when they were together. You knew that they were going to have a good time, but you didn't have to worry about what they were going to get into. They were going to be safe in what they did. They had a ball together, laughed and giggled, and really a good time.
That was until the night of December 6th, when Amy and her three best friends were killed by people who have still not been caught.
If they catch them tomorrow, I say hang them the next day.
They need to suffer. I'm sorry, but we're suffering every day. It's not getting any better. I hate to say. They tell me in time it will, but it's not any better today than it was the Saturday morning that they told me that it had happened.
These families waited 34 years for a name, for a match, for a day in court where the record could be corrected. That day came on February 19th, 2026. And for the four wrongfully accused men, it came with a formal apology from the Travis County District Attorney, who opened the exoneration hearing with these words. Over 25 years ago, the state prosecuted 4 innocent men for one of the worst crimes Austin has ever seen. We could not have been more wrong. Exoneration and close.
Today's decision is not an act of generosity. It is an act of obligation. An obligation to the truth, an obligation to the rule of law, an obligation to the dignity of the individual. Let my rulings serve as what they are intended to be, a full and final declaration that the accusations against you are without legal or factual foundation. May this moment mark not only the end of proceedings, but the beginning of restoration, of reputation, of peace, and of the ordinary freedoms that should never be lightly disturbed. Never lightly be disturbed. However, there's another injustice in this case that I cannot remedy with the signing of my name, and that is the absence of justice for Amy, Eliza, Jennifer, and Sarah. The court is mindful that this case involves a profound tragedy for their families and loved ones, and nothing in today's ruling diminishes the gravity of their pain. The presumption of innocence that defines our system is not a formality. It is a promise. And today I hope that promise is reaffirmed. The record before this court establishes what the law now formally recognizes, that you are innocent. No ruling can restore the time taken from you. No judgment can fully remedy the burden that you have carried, but the court can and does state without qualification or hesitation that you are cleared and that your innocence is affirmed.
Robert Springsteen spent 9 years in prison, including time on death row. As of 2026, he lives in West Virginia.
We want to go back inside the courtroom now where Amber Fairley, who represents Robert Springsteen, has just taken the stand.
I, Robert Springsteen IV, do hereby provide this written statement on the 19th day of February 2026 to the Honorable Dana Blasey, presiding judge of the 167th District Court, as follows. On or about October 6, 1999, at the age of 24, I was wrongfully arrested and charged for the alleged involvement in the December 6, 1991 murders of 4 innocent girls, Amy Ayers, Eliza Thomas, and Jennifer and Sarah Harbison at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop in North Austin, Travis County, Texas. From the date of my arrest, I adamantly asserted that I was innocent, which only fell on deaf ears due to a coerced confession with no actual evidence of my involvement. My life from that moment of being arrested was turned into chaos and uncertainty after being sentenced to death and placed on death row as an innocent man accused of such a heinous crime I allegedly committed when I was barely 17 years old. After being released in 2009, I have been persecuted every single day by the public and law enforcement, continually being seen as an alleged murderer in their eyes. I have lived every single day since October the 6th, 1999, being seen as a monster for something I did not do. I have suffered 27 years of persecution, repeated harassment, and of trying to exist and survive in this world, which has been a constant daily struggle. 10 of those 27 years being in prison and on death row, kept in solitary confinement with only 1 hour a day to be out of my cell, all while being innocent. Now, new DNA and ballistic evidence affirms my actual innocence and that Robert Eugene Brashers was the sole perpetrator. I pray this court will find that no credible evidence exists against me by granting a full exoneration and deem me actually innocent of the crime wrongfully accused of 27 years ago. Sincerely, Robert Springsteen IV.
Michael Scott was convicted at 28 and spent years in prison before his conviction was overturned. His attorney has said the experience was, in his words, very traumatic.
My name is Michael James Scott. On December 6, 1999, when the yogurt shop murders occurred, I was 17 years old. I did not commit those crimes. I had no involvement in them, and I have maintained my innocence every day since. 8 years, October 6 of 1999, when I was 25 years old, I was accused, tried, and wrongfully convicted. I was sentenced to life in prison. On June 6, 2007, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned that wrongful conviction due to serious constitutional violations. While I was awaiting a new trial, DNA testing on March 18, 2008 excluded me and the other wrongfully accused individuals in this case. Today, more than 26 years later, modern forensic science again conclusively confirms that what I have always maintained. I had nothing to do with these crimes. The evidence identifies Robert Eugene Brashers, a known serial killer, and is the sole person responsible. He is someone I've never met. I lost my family, I lost my youth, I lost my early adulthood. My daughter was just 3 years old when I was arrested. We had just celebrated our first wedding anniversary. I lost the chance to build a life with my family. When I was finally released, the relationship I once had with my wife just wasn't there. That ultimately led to our divorce. For decades, I have carried the burden of wrongful conviction. Every day, I have carried the weight of a crime I did not commit. No court ruling can return the years and the love that were taken from me, but it can acknowledge the truth. I am not guilty.
As of the most recent reporting, he lives in South Austin. Forrest Wellborn, who was 15 at the time of the murders, who never confessed, and who was never indicted, lives in Manchaca, Texas. He owns a bar there called Manchaca Springs Saloon. Maurice Pierce died in 2010. His widow and daughter sat in the courtroom on February 19th, 2026.
The phrase most often associated with justice, the principle meant to anchor the system, is innocent until proven guilty. But for my father and 3 of his peers, that principle did not exist. From the very beginning, the presumption was not innocence, it was guilt. Guilty until proven innocent. In 1991, my father was a shy 16-year-old boy who loved anything automotive. He was smitten with a girl he met in PE class, my mom, and spent most of his time tinkering on cars. He had a natural gift for it, and there was nothing he couldn't figure out how to fix. And that's exactly who he was. That's exactly who he was when someone needed help. If life knocked you down, he sat beside you until you found your footing again. He would spend hours holding space with you, talking about everything and nothing. He knew how to be present. He knew how to make people feel seen. In his own quiet way. He knew how to fix more than just cars. He knew how to steady the hard emotions life threw your way. That simple teenage life quickly shattered in December of 1991 when he sat in a room across from a detective named Hector Polanco. For 2 days and nights, his family had no idea where he was. For hours, there was no proper record of what occurred. Graphic crime scene photos from one of Texas's most horrific crimes were passed around carelessly, shown to a frightened teenager who was lied to and manipulated into believing the gun he had access to was the gun used. Inside that room, there was no evidence, only a detective and a narrative. A narrative so completely false, it feels evil. It's this story of a boy who was a troublemaker, a magnetic leader with disciples, and later a story of a ringleader and a mastermind. Those words, ringleader and mastermind, used to float around in my head as a little girl, as I tried to grasp what was happening in my world. I learned at a very young age that the very institution meant to serve and protect was capable of evil, capable of lies, and not just harmless human error, but intentional corruption and deception. Recently, I sat with an attorney who described my father standing before the judge in 1999, saying he would give them whatever they needed to clear his name. And the attorney stopped him. He told my father he could not allow him to do that, not because he was guilty, but because the system was dangerous. Because any evidence, any test, any DNA could be taken and bent to fit the story they had already decided to tell. What does that say about justice? What does it say when an attorney knows openly and plainly that the truth is not safe in the hands of the very system meant to protect it?
As his name was cleared, Judge Dana Blasey looked across the courtroom at the men and the families gathered there, and she signed the orders with a finding of actual innocence. And then she said 3 words that opened this story. You are innocent. 34 years. 4 girls who deserve justice. 4 men who deserve their freedom. 1 killer who was identified by the courage of a 13-year-old girl who refused to go without a fight. The case is closed. The record is corrected. Some things cannot be given back. If you made it to the end of this one, thank you. Genuinely, this kind of work takes time to do right. If it added something to your understanding of how systems fail and how they occasionally correct themselves, and you want to see us continue doing it, subscribe. Tell one person. That is the entire business model. The next case is already in production. We will see you then.